Hello all, and welcome back for another installment of Sewing 101. Today, we start covering hardware, specifically buttons, as you can probably tell from the title. This is extremely useful as buttons tend to fall off fairly often, or you may not like the buttons on your shirt you bought. You can customize it with some new ones you get from the craft store. There are 3 styles of buttons to cover, so let's get started. For all the buttons we sew, we should be using 4 threads. It makes the button more secure and your sewing will go faster. This is done by taking 2 lengths of thread, threading both ends through the eye, and then tying the 4 ends together. With this many threads, it's easier for me to knot them using the around the finger method rather than the around the needle method. The first kind of button is a 2-hole button. All buttons are uniquely shaped, but you'll probably be working with buttons where it's easy to tell the top from the bottom. So make sure you have the pretty side facing out. You have to be extra mindful with your tension with buttons. You don't want to pull it too taut, or you won't be able to get the fabric underneath your button. Too loose, and the button won't securely hold the fabric and flop around. We start by knotting on where your button will sit. That way the button will hide the knot. Then we pull the needle through one hole, then the other, and then put our needle through the fabric on the other side. You'll repeat this 2 to 4 times, depending on the size of the button, until the button feels secure. Make sure every time your needle goes to the wrong side of the fabric, you keep it in one place. It should look like one dot on the back, rather than a bunch of lines of thread. Now, take your needle back to the top of your fabric, but don't put it through a buttonhole. You should come through between the fabric and your button. Now, wrap the thread on your needle around the thread beneath your button. This creates a gap for the fabric around the buttonhole to sit beneath the button. Remember what I said about tension earlier? This is why. Now you can knot off under the button or on the wrong side of your fabric. And don't forget to hide your thread when knotting off. Next is the 4-hole button. It works essentially the same way as a 2-hole button. The only different thing to note is to make sure to make parallel lines when you sew. We don't want an X shape. Otherwise, it's the same process. It's a little more difficult to make one dot in the back, but it is possible. Just take your time. Last is the shank button. It's called this because this loop underneath is called a shank. These days, shanks are usually made from plastic, but I've also seen metal and wooden ones. You'll sew up and through the shank, then back to the wrong side of the fabric. You'll repeat this 2 to 4 times until the button feels secure, trying to make this small dot on the wrong side like the other buttons. When the button feels secure and I'm ready to knot off, I knot right next to my dot and hide the ends of thread underneath it, so it all looks like one dot at a glance. This level of detail isn't necessary for the button to be secure, but we all like to look at neat things and not messy ones. And those are the 3 types of buttons you'll be working with. Until I see you again, happy sewing.